Mr. Murali, I want to come to you. Like I said, I read out the list. Some of them are excellent, to spruce up the activity. But I have some problems with certain things, and one being that sent on deputation all non-Hindu staff of the temple to other departments or ask them to take VRS. That is one thing. And as a journalist, you and I know that, when you press gang me into not speaking, that is, a curtailment of my fundamental right. No political comments to be made on the Tirumala Hills. I'll ask you that later, but first up about transferring of people. What do you think of that? I mean, does that mean that this is exclusively by, for and only Hindus?
Yeah, let's look at it in a holistic way. Uh, this TTD itself is Tirupati Tirumala Devasthanam, which is a purely a Hindu religious temple. It's not that non-Hindus won't go into the temple with some kind of a protocol of giving the declaration. They can still get into the temple. So it's okay as long as you start believing in the temple, in the Lord Venkateshwara and the Hindu culture. Now, second, that's only for the for the those who would like to visit the temple and then go out. So that's only for that protocol applies only to them. Now, when it comes to the permanent employees, uh, by a reasonable understanding, you don't find non-Christians in Vatican, nor you find non-Muslims in Mecca, nor in any of the other religious structures. So there is nothing wrong. Fundamentally, to my mind, it's by far a fair decision as long as they are not, forcibly thrown out. First of all, getting them into the system itself is incorrect. Now, the corrective action for that is to make them voluntarily resign and go, or else they depute to the
Yeah, but
they
Murali,
would be
yeah,
transferred to the
but Mr. PVS
yeah.
Murali, I am not a legal, but I do understand that if a place is a place which reveres the most respected Lord, and I am a devotee, I am saying it very loudly here. Every man in my family is called Srinivas. You throw a stone and there are hundreds who will stand up. But I am saying that yes, maybe you cannot, possibly you have to follow rules, sign a declaration. But what about right to employment? Is there a charter there which says only Hindus can apply for a job? Because if that is so, I respect that as well. But I have my doubts, because if earlier Muslims could work there or Christians could work there, what has changed now? Except that it's a new board, Mr. Murali. It's right to employment.
Yeah, you're right. No, that's what I said. One wrong cannot make another wrong cannot make the other first wrong as correct. But my point here is, ma'am, the fundamentally the, the non-Muslims and the non-Hindus were inducted into the this kind of news of non-Hindus didn't come to the front earlier on, except for the last 5 to 6 years' time. So, which means obviously there is much water has flown in the last several years, for whatever reason it can be. And so now to make a correction and take a corrective action, it's in all fairness, a Hindu temple should be for the Hindus and not managed by somebody who do not understand what Hinduism is.
I don't
And
agree. I don't
fundamentally,
agree. I don't agree, but then that's your point of view. I respect it. We can agree to disagree that because I belong
okay.
to a different religion, I will not understand Hinduism, because
My
Hinduism,
only
no, let
yeah
me,
my only my one last thing. My only submission to you is that if it's possible for you, please make me a member in Vatican City.
in where?
In the
Make,
Vatican City.
I'm sorry, sir, but I have nothing to do with the Vatican or any other religious organization. I'm a journalist like you are. And on that very funny note, let me now go across to Professor Jyotsna Tirunagari, who is the national spokesperson for the Telugu Desam Party. Professor Jyotsna, very warm welcome to you. Namaste. I want to ask you about these political comments, and I read out so that I don't make any mistakes. The board has imposed a ban on making such comments. If anyone indulges in this practice, we will file cases against them. You want to explain that, Professor Jyotsna, about what this means?
Good evening, Sudha-ji.
Namaste.
A warm good evening to all the audience also. So that yesterday's board resolutions, let me give clarity on some of them along with the question that you have asked me.
Yes, ma'am.
First thing is, there are a couple of things that the board resolution and the board thought was important. There are 4 major pillars, I would say. One is preserving the sanctity of the place. Second one is, the reforms that we get or that the board is trying to get are devotee-centric reforms. Third one is maintaining the cultural integrity of the place and also maintaining transparency. Why am I saying you all this, Sudhaji? The first thing, the preserving the sanctity of the place. And the question that you have asked me, Sudhaji, about the political comments there or whatnot, making political comments on the hill, what we call the Tirumala shrine, what we call, has become pretty common in the past 5 years. I would say earlier, there probably, anybody who would go to Tirumala Tirupati would not utter a word apart from God's things. Om Venkateshaya Namaha, ya fir, Narayana Namaha. Bas utna hi. Usko chhod ke, I mean, beyond that, nobody would talk anything about politics or political statements on the hill shrine. Never did it happen. But for the past 5 years, things have gone really haywire, I would say. And again, the board said, see, board is completely different from the government, I would say. So the board today says, no, boss, nobody, no political party or no political individuals can come here and talk about politics because it's a religious place and we want to preserve the sanctity of the place. First thing, that's the reason they have come up with a ban on political comments, and I personally would welcome it as a devotee of Lord Sri Venkateshwara, because when we go there, in fact, Sudhaji, you are a devotee, you know very clearly that, on the hill shrine of Tirumala, we should just hear the chantings. Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Venkatesaya Namaha. These are just the chantings.
Right,
that
I totally agree. I totally agree.
Apart from that, nothing else.
Yeah, I can only hear Suprabhadam sung by M.S. Subbalakshmi. We've been going for years. But I want to ask you something, Professor Jyotsna.
Yes.
Now, who has made the biggest political statements on the Tirumala Hills and particularly the board in recent history? Your Chief Minister.
I will come.
No. I also need, I have to adjust timings also. So I'm asking you. Your Chief Minister and your Deputy Chief Minister, who went on Varahi Yatras after Yatras and did Prashchitta and everything, we saw that happening. The other is Chandrababu Naidu, who said that the board was corrupt, the board was full of people who were non-believers. So who's making political comments? You have to also look at yourself, look inwards, no?
So Sudhaji, are we the people who have got this ban on political comments there? It is the board that has come up.
Yeah, so whose board is it, ma'am? Whose board? Who has this yeah, but we all, come on, board. Professor. Earlier, Sudhaji, Professor, if earlier board which had Subbarao and everyone said, oh, he is Subba Reddy, he is a Christian because, it is Jagan Reddy. How come this board has nothing to do with the party?
Let me come to your point, Sudhaji. You have to give me time when you have asked me a question. I said, because the board believes that as you are also one of the devotee of Lord Sri Venkateshwara, right? You only said in the initial comments by you in this particular debate, your feelings were also hurt when the thing about laddu prasada has come out. So the board today said on the hill shrine, no political comments would be allowed by anyone. Anyone who comes here and does any sort of a political comment, cases would be registered.
That's curtailing freedom of expression. Sorry.